Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Collingwood Connection. I'm Will, as you know by now, and I'm joined by Fossil down there in Patterson Lakes. How you going, Foss?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Will. Yeah, she's been a long day, Will, but the footy's back, so everybody should be up and about, especially the Carlton supporters after last week. They'd love that. But yeah, it'd be good to see the Pies in action on Sunday.
Yeah, a bit of salt in the wound straight away there, Fossil. Although most Collingwood supporters won't mind that. Yes, it's recording now on a Friday night, so yeah, we've had the Carlton and Sydney game. At least footy's back, Fossil. That's the main thing. So, no, very much looking forward to our clash on Sunday. I reckon not quite 90,000, but they're talking about possibly 90,000 or getting to the MCG, so that'd be fantastic. It's obviously the big one here, folks. Collingwood v St Kilda. That's 7:20 at the MCG on Sunday. It's going to be, yeah, an absolute blockbuster. First game of the year, so I guess you're not sure exactly what's going to happen. But the teams have dropped fossils, so that's what we're here to go over this week. So the 23-man squad, we are missing, well, a bit of a surprise, and maybe Fossil will talk about the potential debutant that wasn't in Cochrane, and yeah, the Pies look like they're going a bit shorter for the first game of the year. So I'll get up the teams now. So we'll have a look here, guys. Thanks to Zero Hanger, pick your team. So I've got the squad there. You got that, Fossil?
Yep, got him there, Will. Yep, all good.
Beautiful. Yep. All right. Well, we'll start with the back line. As you said, Fosso, rather small lineup, guys. We got Houston, Frampton's our big boy. Quanar, Perryman. I put Maynard there because I'm guessing they're going to have to get him to play a bit bigger this week, Fossil. And I think because Maynard is our second tall, let's say, Josh Dacos, I think might go to the halfback flank this week. You've had a look at the St Kilda squad, Fossil. What do you make of their team?
Yeah, well, I was just having a look with him. I thought actually they were a bit taller, but they got Marshall and DeConey. If they go forward, they're 201, and Sharman's 193, and then sometimes they might throw Silvani forward. So, but I think I'd have probably Frampton and McStay as the key backs, and then Cameron can work behind the ball and give him a chop out like he always does. So, yeah, I'm a bit surprised though that. Yeah, they hadn't put Cochrane in, but obviously that's the way they're going to go. But I think if they do go tall down fronts and Kilda, they could probably put McStay back there, and like I said, Cameron helping him and Frampton out, and still have Membry and Buller as our key forwards.
Yeah, exactly. I think initially they will start with a tall forward line. We've got the three prongs, even though Tim Membry, is a medium tall forward, but if we have McStay with Buller, Collingwood debut, so best of luck to the young Bull, and Tim Membry as well. So I think that'll test out that back line. They've got Silvani, 194 centimeters. Wilkie, he's only 191, but definitely plays a lot taller than his size. And yeah, they've got Caminiti, who initially was a forward. So whether they swing him down there and try and stretch our back line, that's maybe when McRae will look to throw McStay back there to even it up a bit. But I think initially the squads they'll probably just go head to head and just see what sort of changes how the game is panning out, fossils. So we'll
Yeah, I think so. Well, you're spot
and
on there.
and same with the midfield battle, as you said. So one key point I wanted to talk about was the ruck situation you touched on. Steen still waiting for his debut. He's on the emergencies, but Darcy Cameron usually he holds his own. These new ruck rules will make it very interesting, but going up against TDK and Marshall, so that's going to be an interesting battle. And then he'll need a rest at some point. So yeah, McStay, Buller, looks like we'll have a shorter forward line at some point because they've got to give him a bit of a chop out. Only the 75 rotations, so with that extra player, 23-man team now that we do, they're going to have to really work out what time they're going to give Cameron. But I think he best and fairest for a reason. I think he'll be pretty good to go, fossils. So yeah, what do you think about the potential, well, the ruck battle on Sunday?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like what you said, well, you've pretty much nailed it. But yeah, McStay could be a busy boy because if Cameron does need a spell, whether he's down back or down forward. But I suppose if he can give him a chop out, and Cameron can just sit behind the ball or have a bit of a spell, it still gives him memory and Buller. Maybe I don't know whether Buller can do a bit of ruck work in the forward line with him, or I'm not quite sure. But depending how they're going down back, and if McStay's free, well, at least he could do a bit of rucking while Cameron has a bit of a spell because, like you said, they haven't put Steen in, they haven't put Cochrane in, so obviously they got some plan to give him a bit of a rest. But yeah, probably McStay or Buller, they'll probably do a bit of ruck while he has a bit of a spell.
Yeah, exactly. Fair enough. And a couple of the young fellas who got the nod to have a start. So not many debutants, as we've said, but Rowan Steele, who came in last year and very very consistent player. I think he'll play more wing, but potentially go forward as we saw in the preseason. He got forward in practice game. I think it was one against the Giants and kicked a couple of goals. So yeah, he'll probably be an attacking midfielder that goes forward. Jack Crisp will the wings will probably swap between Houston, Crisp. You might even have Lipinski rolling through there. So they're going to obviously try and roll a few guys through to stretch St Kilda. But the big battle in the middle there, Fossil, Dacos, the likes of De Goey and Ned Long. Nasiah Wanganing Miller as a player that gets mentioned a fair bit, comparison to Nick Dacos. So they're going to obviously have their hands full, and Nick Dacos himself, Windhager, will run with that tag as he did last year, but hopefully Dacos can shake it off and yeah, be very damaging for us.
Yeah, yeah, no, he's pretty right there. Well, that's what they'll do with the list where you, like you said, you got Steele and you got McQuarrie, Josh Jacobs if they have two side bottom, DeGoey, Cripps, Pendlebury. So they've got plenty to go through the midfield. So to share the workload, which I think that's what they'll be doing. But like you said, with young Steele, I think, if they have memory and Buller up forward, and you got, Steele and McQuarrie and Elliott and Schultz, which is still not a bad forward line. So if McStay does go back or he is in the ruck, so I think that's the way they'll go there because I think he kicked a couple of goals when he went down there last year, Will, and he moves pretty well. So hopefully the boy goes well.
Yeah, exactly. And the forward line, which it might be a blessing in disguise, a bit more unpredictable. Obviously, you're going to miss the likes of Checkers, who played above his height of roughly 100 and what is he, 192 odd centimeters. So always was up against the big boys and competing. Didn't kick as many goals towards the end of last year, so whether that's battling injury like McStay was as well, he had a few shoulder issues later in the year. So hopefully they're all fresh to go. Like I said last week, I thought Membry might get his place. He's very consistent, and McRae seems to like him. The pressure kings, Lockie Schultz and Bo McCreary, which I think we'll see in patches, him go through the midfield. Last year he played the first quarter and unfortunately got injured. Touch wood, doesn't happen this time, but he was on fire. I think he had a few center clearances, so yeah, a bit more flexibility, but yeah, they won't be afraid to roll the dice a bit, and if it's not quite going our way, I think they'll throw a few numbers through there, and it's good to see as well. Just having a look at the bench, Ed Allen, yeah, he had a very good pre-season, and the big body we probably need. So yeah, it's good to see him get his opportunity, and Will Parker as well with the likes of Jeremy Howe and Darcy Moore out, and he doesn't really do anything wrong, Will Parker. He probably deserved to play a couple of finals last year, so it's good to see him get the nod and a couple of young fellas there in Pendlebury and Sidebottom. I don't know if they'll start on the bench, but yeah, they're quite handy to have as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Sidey will be on one of the wings. But yeah, young Parker, he just goes out and does his job. But I've got him actually on the half-back flank with Dacos and Quanar and then Maynard, Frampton and McStay, for a bit of run as well. But like you said, he just goes out there, does his job, and that's all we can ask of the kid. And good luck to him, and I hope he has a good game on Sunday.
Well, very effective too, and they've obviously got Higgins and Ryan, which they recruited in the off season, so he's going to have his hands full. But he's done some pretty good work on the likes of Charlie Cameron and some of those better smaller forwards in the competition. So yeah, best of luck to Parker and the boys there. Couple of questions to throw at each other. Fossil, do you want to go first, or do you want me to
Yeah,
fire away?
one for you, Will. Yeah, with
Yep.
Wanganeen Miller will. Should they send somebody to him, Will, or put a hard tag or a run with? What do you think they'll do with
Uh,
him?
I think great minds think alike and fools never differ, Fossil, because my question was surrounding the same topic. There's been a lot of chat about Nick Dacos versus Nasir, and obviously two very good young players. I think Dacos has got the edge, but Nasir's obviously come up, and him dealing with the tag's going to be a big question. Collingwood aren't really a tagging side, but I actually was going to ask you, so well, you can answer after me. But I thought the likes of someone like Steel Sidebottom might be an interesting tag. I mean, the older legs can get going. I know Nasai is very quick, but Steel Sidebottom, he's done that. What was it? Towards the end of I think 2024, he started to tag a few of the key midfielders out of games and did a pretty good job. He started 2025 on fire, so they sort of dropped the tag roll from him and just let him chase his own footy. But I'd like to see Steele Sidebottom run around with him. It might be a trick that McRae has waiting for him, but yeah, no, Steele Sidebottom should have the legs to get around. It might not be obviously for the whole time he's on the field, but if it's effective early, yeah, I think they will try some sort of tactics and maybe change it up. Whether he goes, he can play defense, midfield, or forward, Nasiah. So. I think they'll just rotate as he goes, and yeah, hopefully he doesn't get off the chain too much because he can be pretty damaging. So, what are your thoughts with that one?
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking maybe would he be too quick for Houston? To bring him into the game and
Mm,
take him where the ball is.
yeah, probably a little too quick for Houston. It's also if he does go forward, I guess that's where Houston can match up. He's also a decent mark, obviously. Got a good leap on him. He's an all-round
Yeah,
athlete, even though probably size is the only weakness he'd have, but that's where the legs come in and he'll keep yeah, he'll try and run them off their feet. So probably just a little bit quick for Houston. And I think with Houston in the off season, especially as we saw against North Melbourne, they want him to feed the ball in, to our forward line. So I wouldn't be surprised if Houston might start half back and then work his way up towards the wing because he was absolutely kicking darts into that forward line. They got on the end of a couple of them, and then others were just too hot for the forwards to handle. But at least they know, what to expect. So in terms of him tagging, I wouldn't because we try and use Houston as a weapon. He is, and hopefully he can kickstart off the year like he did against Port Adelaide that first game last year. So yeah, I think I'd rather utilize Houston to our favor. Yeah, yeah. So if not Houston, do you think anyone else, or do you think they'll try and go head to head? I guess with Messiah.
yeah, yeah. I think they'll just have a look at it first. Well, like you said, like they've got a few options, but yeah, I like what you said about Houston. Now I'd have him up on the wing or a bit further up, Will, like you said, and feeding the ball into the forward line. And a lot of the time, Sylvie gets it when 50. Well, he'd be kicking him himself anyway because he's a beautiful kick, good
Yeah.
long kick for goal. So I think you'll find he will play up the ground a bit closer to goals, whether it's delivering the ball in there or kicking it himself. But yeah, hopefully he can get a good start to the season and have a good year.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of them, and we shouldn't be too focused on one player. I know Nasai is a big name and very dangerous, but I mean they've got players that can, get off the hook if we're not too careful. Yeah, they got a few midfield. Like Windhager, even though he's a tagger, I think he got 40 odd possessions in one of those practice games. So yeah, they might just flick the switch and they got a few boom recruits, the Saints. So hopefully we can upset the party and they wanted to come to the MCG. So yeah, the big Collingwood crowd will rock up and yeah, hopefully it's a good they make a good fist of it and we get off to a good start for the year. I was going to ask too, it's a little side note, but just something I want to sort of keep tabs on. I guess how this year kind of flows, Fossil. I'd like to see. Um, I'd like to see if some of our young players, as we see, um, rotate through the team. They'll be in and out as we go. So I was just trying to get that off there, Foss. Um, I'd just like to see, these young players come in. I know they're going to replenish or sort of help out our older fellas get a bit of rest and We can't expect the likes of Sidebottom, Pendlebury, and these older Crispy even. I know he's got that record, but you're going to see a few of these guys get rested at some point or need a break. So, just a question on McRae and developing these young kids, because it just seems like at times he's reluctant. West only, he debuted last year, but only played the one game. Oscar Steen, he looks like he could have played a few games last year, even not that you want to disrespect the opposition, but against West Coast, that seemed like a good opportunity to rest Cameron. And I guess McRae obviously wants to win, but do you think there's some sort of I guess boundary there where he wants to win, wants to keep getting this done, but we can't really afford to sacrifice these young players developing, with a few of these senior guys looking to head off in the next year or two. So, yeah, where do you stand on that, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. Well, like you said, like the development coaches are resuming, all the coaches there, the backline, the midfield, and the forward coaches are all working together to develop these young players. But like you said, they seem to be starting off with the tried and true. But the thing where I get a little bit disappointed is sometimes, like I don't know, like I think one of the guys last year, I think he was sub and then he played a bit of the game and they drop him the next week. I'd like to see him if they do get the chance, depending on how we're going, I suppose, but I'd like to see him get 2 or 3 weeks, because it must be hard, if you're only playing a quarter and a half, and then you don't play the next week. That's what I can't understand. But they seem to be going with the tried and true first, and then depending on how we go, will. But I think there should be plenty of chances this year, especially with the age of our list, to rotate depending on how the team's going. But yeah, Cochrane and Steen, and there's a few other midfielders there that are putting their hand up. So I suppose, if the older guys are there, if they're not playing well, well, then they've got to start giving these young blokes a crack. But I'd like to see them play 2 or 3 weeks in a row just to see how they stand up to the pressure. Because I just don't think a half or a game at a bit's not enough time. It's pretty unfair. But yeah, depending how they're going. But I think they've got to start mixing them up, Will, and maybe give a few of the older guys a rest and bring in a few of the young ones and see what they can do.
Yeah, it also comes down to probably the form of the team as well. Like, not that we, hope for that, but if we're not going so well, they've got to try something out, get a few young guys in, add a bit of energy, and if they do, I guess, don't get off to a great start for the year, that will give them the opportunity to try out a couple of these young keys. Like we've got Howes, um, one of my boys, I like to claim him. Howes and West could be a good combination for the next, 5 to 10 years to come. So I'd like to see a few of these guys get that opportunity. Even if we get off to a good start and we come up against the likes of West Coast or Richmond, they've got to at some point they've got to try these kids out. It might be if some of our senior players aren't playing so well, but as long as they're proving themselves in the VFL and they, like you said, they're showing that form and they should get rewarded because our boy, I felt a bit sorry for him at times that Finlay McRae, like he'd always seemed to get to that point where he was pushing for selection. He was actually very good late last year in the VFL, but he couldn't crack into the team unless he was the sub. And I'm glad they've got rid of the sub and all that. But you have to reward these young fellas if they're putting their hand up. And this new crop of draft picks look really good. Your boy Prindable and Anderson, I reckon he looks pretty good to go. So if they do. Unfortunately, the VFL is it's a bit of a delayed start to the season, but yeah, if they are putting their case forward, then I think they should get rewarded as long as the senior team. There's got to be a couple players who aren't quite informed, so I just want to keep a tab on that fossil just to see, as the year goes, and we'll talk about this again. But yeah, just Craig McRae, and since he's come in, he's pretty much found his players that he likes to, give rewards to and give them games each week. But they're going to have to, they're going to have to start rewarding these younger ones eventually. So we'll wait and
Well,
see.
that's right. Well, yeah, exactly. And I think a couple of times towards the end of the year, we got found out with our pace too. And I suppose with these younger guys, like you said, Anderson and Printable, and I think there's DeMartia and there's a few others, maybe they've got to bring them into the side, or Hayes or these blokes or Harrison when they're right, to get them a bit more pace around the ball and a bit of a different look. But anyway, we'll wait and see what sort of start we get up to, Will. But and with the five on the bench, they can probably afford to put a couple of young blokes on there too.
Yeah,
Throughout the season on who we're playing. They can do matchups. Whether it's Steen and Cochrane or Prindable or Anderson. They can mix it around a bit, so they don't have to make a lot of changes. But it'd be good to see the young ones getting a go and see how they go for the side.
yeah, exactly. Sorry, I think I lost you there for a sec, but yeah, no, good points there, and we'll get back to the footy. So big game Sunday night, and I'll have to get you a winner and margin fossils. So what do you think? What are the Pies doing this week?
Yeah, I think they'll be fine with him. I think they'll win by 23. We've got a mate, Lukey, at work. He barracks for St Kilda. They wouldn't even know how to get to the ground. I think they're going by Uber, Will, to the MCG, the St Kilda boys. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think we'll be all right. I think they'll be steady, and I think we'll get home by 23.
23, very confident fossil. It would be a bit lackluster if it was at Marvel Stadium. Probably would get towards 45,000. So I'm really glad it's at the MCG. I'm going to back in the Pies. I know we're not favourites at the moment. St Kilda just clocked into about $1.85. So no, very, very even matchup. But I'm going to back the boys in. It's going to be interesting with the different preparations. St Kilda's had two good preseason hitouts and got over the opposition pretty comfortably. Even Essendon, I think, by about 7 goals. And, we would have taken the foot off the pedal against North Melbourne and we were missing a few players. So those players not having the extra game under their belt and whether Collingwood are looking for the long term instead of, not that they're not going to try and win, but they're looking for the long game. Last year we got off to a hot start and then we sort of held on, and until the end of the season. So I'm going to back the Pies. I'm going to say it's going to be a close one. So bring your defibrillators, Pie fans. I'm going to say Collingwood by 5 points, Fossils. So bit of a heart stopper to start the year, I think.
Yeah, we get plenty of them with this team. Well, unfortunately, and Foster's getting a bit old, mate. I'm 70 this year, so hopefully they can get two or three goal margin, then I can breathe a lot easier. So, but we'll wait
Yeah,
and see what happens. But as long as they get out there and give it a crack and give a good account of themselves, that's all we can ask for. But yeah, hopefully we'll be in front when that final siren goes.
exactly. All right. Thanks, guys. And well, get into Lukey Fossil, especially if we get up. Yeah, fingers crossed. Thanks for tuning in to Collingwood Connection, and hopefully, come Monday, the public holiday, we've got a good review episode to go. So, thanks, guys, and go Pies. Let's go.
Go Tigers. See you, Will.
All right,
Bye.
see you guys. Bye.